So before we get to a little more about Zia, let's, you also see a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm sure, who've been through tough times. In fact, you probably have a self-selecting segment of people who have tough times, because that's when you need a lawyer. So what have you kind of, what is the distilled wisdom of all the stories that you've seen, and, some turned out okay, some didn't, that you think entrepreneurs should, that you'd like to sort of
maybe questions would be better, but I think there's no one size fits all, Rama. It's sometimes there are financial crises that cause problems.
Is there a hanging in there? Are there any hanging in there
I think
stories?
if you have the passion, for me, at the end of the day, when, everybody says, well, how do you stick it out? How do you continue? I think God has given me the passion. I essentially love what I do. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I have a bounce in my step almost every day. I mean, there's a rare day when I'm feeling really grouchy with the world. But I love going into my office. I love advising my clients. And if you have the passion, I think that's it. That carries you through so many sad situations.
I think that is a really good answer. It goes to the next question also I had, which is what motivates you. So let's move to, how would you measure your success? I mean, what are the metrics, if you had a dashboard to look at the progress of Zia as a entrepreneur, a professional, whatever, what would the elements of that dashboard be?
I think the first thing that I think for anyone to be successful, which would include all of you, is that you really can't do it without domain. If you don't know your subject or your business really, really well, you won't be the best. You have to know exactly what you're doing, and you have to be good at it. So your knowledge skill set has to be the platform. And speaking for myself, I basically try not to go to sleep any day without knowing exactly what, in my profession, the Reserve Bank of India or the government of India has come out with that day. So if I get a call from a client anytime the next day, I can say, I just read about something. I may not know it by heart, but at least I know what it is and a sense of what it is. So knowledge, I think, is a given. The other thing would really be, in terms of success, is to inculcate a level or a sense of confidence in everybody that you deal with. That comes a lot from the values that you have, the values that you instill in your organization, and the values that are tested in obviously difficult situations. Everything is fine, nothing is tested. It's only when things go wrong and you're asked to make difficult choices. Money at the cost of honesty, honesty at the cost of money, opportunity at the cost of honesty. Are you going to, just be sleazy to get that job? Are you going to badmouth your competitors in order to get an advantage? And I think that sometimes, I always tell our young lawyers that the happiest moment for me is when in a transaction, we finish the transaction, and then after a while, the other side comes to us for the next job.
Okay.
That shows that you've done your job really well, right? He's trusted you enough when you were fighting against him.
Yes.
He's come to,
so that's the best impact measure that there is.
I think so.
Better than winning or losing, counting the wins and losses, I think that's the impact measure. Certainly, that's the measure I chase. And also, I see whether I get called to the table, if there's anything at all happening in my space. And if I'm not called to the table, then, clearly there's something happening.
Why not?
Why not, right? So how would you know when, sometime in the very distant future, how will you know when you're losing the plot? Or how will you know when your business isn't what it should be? How do you know when you're
I think that I would be worried if today I would say, well, as a lawyer and as our law firm, we generally get called to the biggest deals on the table, the most sensitive deals on the table, not necessarily the biggest. And if we lose our share, you can't have 100% of everything all the time, but if we lose our share, I would think, why is the business community not thinking that they can get the calibrated advice that they were getting from us earlier?
So now the last question before I throw it open to the audience, and it's almost, this question is almost like waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's the question on balancing roles. But I think it's important because it would be, I guess, less than honest to say everything's hunky-dory and there was no balance involved. So, I mean, let's take that for given.
So let's shoot
So what are
it
cope
back.
strategies? You have 3 lovely girls. Do you have motherhood? Did you ever have motherhood guilt? How do you think about it at the philosophic level? You know, when do you say, screw it, I'm not going to sweat this stuff? When do you sit and agonize? You know, tell us about
So again, Rama, I think
balancing
there's
roles.
a common answer. So how many women here have kids? Keep your hands up. Let the women who don't have motherhood guilt put their hands down.
Oh, there are hands going down. It is another generation.
Well, they ask them. I think that, you know, one of the things that has plagued me, and I wish I had the answer for it, I would pay a lifetime, is I don't think you can really get rid of guilt. But that's okay. Again, you know, everything comes at a cost. If you had to not work, it would come at a cost.
Yes.
So is there any perfect balance? Well, I remember cutting out this article of Jack Welch and sending it to all my lawyers, where he said, for women, there is no life balance. But I think that, you know, we are the generation that has had to deal with this issue. This is the generation that I was telling Anita, that, you know, did our mothers have this opportunity by and large? No. And have we laid the foundation for our daughters? Surely yes. In fact, I keep scolding my daughters that they have taken what we have done so much for granted that, you know, they should not lose the lessons that we have learned along the way. So it's a question of, again, being practical. So I always tell the audience, when they are largely women, that, you know, make life easier for yourself. There are things that somehow, for some reason, we don't think about to make life easy. So what do? So I remember when I got my first kid, traumatic for every woman. So there are two occasions where research shows a woman decides to drop out of the professional space. After marriage and after the first kid. Very stressful times for women. If you can get over those hurdles, you're by and large okay. So what do you do when you are at those hurdles? Make life easy for yourself. How many of you live with your mothers-in-law? Not many. More of you should. So use your support system. I mean, when I got married, before I got married, my mother told me, she said, look, I don't want any of this, my mother-in-law did this, my mother-in-law did that nonsense. I don't have time for it. Go and talk to your mother-in-law before you get married. Sort it out. Because I don't want problems in life later. So I did.
That's very
I
wise
went to my
advice.
mother-in-law. She was not working, but she had studied law. Fabulous woman. And I said, you know, Ushanti, I'm a working woman, and I'm not going to be able to do a lot of things. So we should agree that you're okay with that. So she said, yeah, haan, beta, su joiye tane. I said, I don't want to go into the kitchen. So she was very happy. She thought, oh my God, this house is my domain. So I said, I don't want the ghar ka chabi, and you have to look after me, as if I'm your younger daughter.
That
so
was a very
that was
smart
very good.
negotiation.
Then I said, I want 2 children. I don't want more. She says, okay, pan be chokri hoy to ek wakhate biju try karwanu. So I said, okay. So I had 3 girls. That's it.
That is absolutely
So,
lovely.
I think you need to, you know, if you have one nanny, and as I always say, for 5,000 rupees, we are held to ransom, right? So get a second nanny. You can't afford it? Most of us can afford it, okay? If you have to keep driving to drop your kids somewhere, don't drive, all right? Make life easier on yourself and get your husband engaged. If your husband is engaged on not him driving, but it's okay for you to have somebody help you, you've won half the battle. Because the reason we drop out is because we're fighting when we come home. We're sad when we come home. We think, oh my God, I have to face with this stress and that stress. And if you are smart and strategic, your mother-in-law is your best friend. Believe me. And it's not in a ruthless way. It's in a sensible way. It's what India has done for generations. So use your support system around you and make life as less stressful as you can. Don't think you have to do everything yourself all the time, because you can't. And that's when you will feel, as Rama says, forget it.
Now I know why you win more cases than you lose them. Okay, so can we throw it open to the audience? Anita, should I pass my mic on, or are there roving mics? We can share one. Okay.
So questions have to be directed to Rama also.
No, we want to hear.
Hello, Mrs. Mody. Here.
Who's speaking?
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the light is in my eyes.
I just wanted to know, 10 years from now, hopefully you will be a grandmother, okay? And I wanted to know, what are the challenges that you set yourself or see yourself in 10 years from now?
It's not challenges, it's dreams 10 years from now.
That, yeah.
I think that, you know, what would really make me thank God is if our law firm was institutionalized sufficiently and I could recede far more into the background, be available really for strategic, very important, sensitive decision-making roles, but be allowed to do a lot more of what I love. I love interacting with good women. I love trying to be a mentor to many of the women that are in the firm and outside. I want more time finally with my family, although they may not want time for me by now. I'm a Baha'i by religion, and I really think my balance sheet with God is very bad. So I would like to concentrate on that as well. So what we all dream of, having time for ourselves, isn't it? Simple. If we're alive.
You will be.
Inshallah. I think one more.
Morning, ma'am. My name is Surbhi Bhagat, and I'm into online education. So, my name is Surbhi, and I'm into online education with a firm.
What education?
Online.
Online.
For K-12 segment and for CNCS with the name Univ Excellence. So, we develop all the material ourselves. It is prepared by our faculties. So how
Sorry,
can
you know, the mic is resonating.
Really
I cannot hear what you're
Can you
saying.
just come forward here?
Come forward
Come.
and then maybe.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, come. Approach the bench.
Her ladyship, Miss Bijapurkar.
We have teachers from all across India who develop all the content for us. So how can we get it copyright and protected, like intellectual property protection, because we have thousands of documents and thousands of video lectures for class 6 to 12th and for CNCS, which we have developed.
That's not a problem. It's a legal question.
But it is very costly.
No, it's not costly. For copyright, you simply have to put C and put a circle around it.
Usse
And that
copy-
gives you 50 years of protection.
That is done. But usse copyright nahi ho jata. If somebody copies, how can I
If
that
it's an
legal?
original product and it's
It is
not
original.
copied from somewhere,
No.
then copyright in law is a natural right. You don't have to register it. Okay?
Not even for the videos? Not even for the videos?
Not even
Videos also can be copyrighted, not a problem.
Okay, I think Zia's close to sending you a bill, and even at 10%, it's going to be a lot of money. So you're going to have to take it offline.
I can guide you offline.
Offline. You can escort her to the car. That is the special privilege.
Very good morning, ma'am. Hi. Wanted to know how you coped up with your ambition on one side, burning ambition, so to speak, and with jealous relatives, possessive husband, demanding kids, and gossiping, neighbors, because you are working, you have to work in a society, or you have to work where you're working like full nights, going out and traveling all the time. So how does one deal, and how did you balance? Because I think you started almost very early when there were hardly any women working that hard. So how did you cope up with that? Did you get the question?
Yes, I think.
Should I repeat that?
Well, frankly,
no,
I think that in the 80s and in the generation that I was lucky in the sense that I got married into a household where my father-in-law, before he passed away, was a lawyer. So my husband had seen his hours. I had a mother-in-law who had studied law. So she knew the demands of the profession. I did not have jealous relatives.
Neighbors?
My neighbor was my mother. I married the boy next door.
Oh, really?
So I used to always threaten him that if you mess with me, my room is empty. I think that it also goes to how you include the inner world around you and make them positive. So I was lucky, and I think the way I projected my success is I made my family proud of me. It was not that, she's off there running her course and all of us are left cooking the food. That's not how I played it, right? So it was a joint success. It was the Mody family getting recognition. It was my husband seeing that, he could use me as a partner and as a consort for all his business work and ideas. It was a partnership that we developed. And it's important to do that in the early days. Later on, it becomes more difficult because mindsets are difficult to change. Role playing is difficult to change. I think you have to create, and it's not necessarily a business thing, but you have to create a personal life strategy. And to stick with it, and what gets you to stick with it, as I said earlier, is the passion.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think the back also, Anita, there's some hands going up.
Yeah.
We are going to have time only for 2 more questions.
Take them from the back. Yeah, the front has had its
okay.
share.
Yeah. Good morning, ma'am. The question that I have are actually 2 questions. The first one is that when we have professional services like you have, which run around your name particularly, did you have any scalability issue at any point in time? And how did you deal with it in terms of scalability? And second is that at any point in time, therefore, you get a feeling that, well, if it is not going to go that scalable, why don't I actually just, get into another practice and do it? Was there any moment, any time that you actually felt like that?
There are many times when you feel like throwing in the towel, as you know. But, so the first question was, did I think it would go beyond my personal involvement?
How did it become scalable? I mean, what were the ideas that you...
Okay. So, yes, for professional services, as Anita will tell you that, and Rama will tell you, it's always a challenge. Clients first come to you because they know you, because they trust you.
Yeah, you've given a mic there.
But I think that what you have to do, which we have tried to do, is you have to train, nurture, and bring up as young partners people who you are personally confident have the same DNA of the advice giving that you do. All your touch points are their touch points. And then you have to slowly, it's not overnight, play those relationships together between the client and your younger professionals, and let the client get the confidence building into the next generation. And always tell the client, if anything is required, guess what? You have my mobile. So you become more the safety net, as I call it. And I always say I'm the sweeper of AZB. Anything that's left to sweep up, I have to sweep up all the nonsense. But that's okay. The younger generation then gets the empowerment, has the domain. All it needs is the trust of the client. And that is the way to scale. If you can get your client's trust, even 80%, to flow down to the next level of partners, you can scale, right? But don't abandon that client ever. Because your role then has become not of a lawyer to that client, but the best role in the world for any lawyer. You've become the trusted advisor. So you are not just advising law, you are advising much beyond that. I have a client who still phones me sometimes at 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. He could have gone to another law firm, for which I scold him tremendously. And then he tells me, "Theek hai abhi Zia, percentage de do, karna hai ya nahi karna hai." So I have to give him a percentage over the phone. So he trusts your gut.